this is a great time to invite Jerry to the stage to show us some of how we are driving this integration and how far we've gotten.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Morning, everybody. All right. So if I could, there we go. So the persona that I'm going to be demoing for you today is the persona of the graphic designer, web designer, mobile designer, who also has a freelance videography and photography business on the side. So as a graphic, mobile, and web designer for Altura, I've been given the task of collaborating with my team on putting together a tablet and mobile property for our landing page. And I might choose a number of different tools for that, but the one that I've been given is Photoshop. And of course, as I scroll down, I see the team that has handed this file off to me didn't quite finish the job, right? And so I've been given the task to kind of finish it before it goes to the creative director for approval. And there's a big gaping missing hole right here where that image should be. Now, I don't necessarily have access to the rest of the team's assets except for here in my Creative Cloud library, but you'll notice I've got plenty of brand assets, colors, and character styles, but I don't actually have shared imagery that I can dump in there very easily. So I can just come on over to the Adobe Stock search right there. Of course, this is going to be, I'm going to be looking for a business leader. Let's find something really quickly. Of course, I could pull in illustrations, vectors, videos, or templates, but right now I really just want to focus on getting a photo in there. So very conveniently, just being able to drag that asset directly onto my canvas, pull it down, get it where I need it to go, and it's nicely scaled. Notice it scales right to the artboard very nicely. Of course, this is not exactly how I want it positioned, so I'm going to do a little bit of magic, right? Let's go in and just flip it around really quickly, do a little flip that horizontally, right? So the lady's face is not overlaying the text. And of course, we have that lovely purple overlay graphic, which we can grab here and just very simply clip that mask and then do a little opacity. So you'll notice I'm making a bunch of changes. Of course, we still have that color in there, so we might want to go in and just turn it black and white really quickly. I'm doing a bunch of these changes, flipping it, turning it black and white, because this is what we do as designers. We manipulate the imagery before we necessarily have the approval. So my creative director is about to get this comp when, of course, she pings me with yet another task, which is to put together a media kit for print and PDF. I went to school as a digital designer. I know pixels and RGB. I don't know inches and picas and CMYK color spaces or print or PDF at all. But I do know that anything print or PDF based starts in InDesign. So since I'm a Creative Cloud subscriber, I open up InDesign for the first time, and I'm just going to cruise around to see if there are any guides for print-based media. And luckily, I have these brand new InDesign-based templates from Adobe Stock that I can cruise through and see, oh, you know what? Look, there's a chic media kit layout. And of course, I can kind of preview that. And yep, that looks about exactly what I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and open that directly here in InDesign. Now, of course, since Adobe Stock is part of the Creative Cloud family, we also have a wonderful integration of these templates with Adobe Typekit, which is lovely, right? These templates are going to leverage Typekit, so it's kind of it's a little bit of cross-promotion in there, so I can sync those typefaces. And there they are, they're just going to sync right in there. And now I can drop that graphic since my Creative Cloud libraries have given me the capability. Where is my, oh, there they are. Right, so notice that image that I selected in Photoshop is now right there in InDesign, ready for me to drop directly into that place. Now, of course, I need to fill the frame proportionally. Looks perfect. And as I'm putting this media kit together, I get a note from the creative director who received my Photoshop file. It's been approved, Jerry. I love the image. It's perfect. It fits exactly to the brand spec. And I say, great. Well, I don't have to go back over to Photoshop to license that image because right here in InDesign, you know, Claude was talking about product integration. I can license it by just clicking right on the canvas in InDesign. That's a one-click licensing. right? There we go. I say okay. And what happens in the background is that InDesign swaps out that image with the high resolution final image. And of course, the watermark goes away. It should be, right? See, watermark disappears. And since I licensed it here in InDesign, I come back to Photoshop and the watermark disappears from the Photoshop. So those are both final, ready to go, lovely workflow. And I didn't have to learn how to create a print document. I had that InDesign template from Adobe Stock right there, ready for me to go. Beautiful.
That's awesome.
So I leave work, right? Thank you, Altura, for the paycheck and a great job. I just saved a bunch of time. So now I can go work on my freelance videography and photography business, which, of course, I conduct with my take-home license of Creative Cloud. And, right? So, actually, no, you're not allowed to do that. That's against the terms and conditions. With my own personal. So, as you can see, part of my business is doing loops for stock photography. And I have a lovely kind of flower loop here. And I've got a bunch of different loops that I want to submit to Adobe Stock. We just shipped this a couple of weeks ago, that if I want to come in and take this and export the media, right, I now have the ability from within the media encoder panel, not only to export it right here with the export settings, but in our publish settings, I can now publish this directly to Adobe Stock as I'm encoding it for local render. So of course, I can queue that up with a number of different videos, or I can just encode it right here. Of course, it's a very short clip, and as you'll see, once it's done encoding, it only takes a few seconds, it automatically starts uploading to Adobe Stock, right? Because I am not only a consumer of stock, but I'm also a contributor, like Claude mentioned. We have the market, kind of a two-sided market covered. So, wow, that really didn't take very much time. I can go straight to the contributor website to see how it's going. So let me zoom back out. Come over to my contributor site. Oh, right. If you're an enterprise customer, you have fine granular control. This is something that Getty and Shutterstock do not have in the administrative console that I happen to have pulled up here, where you can dole out credits and images and assign groups and permissions to specific types of imagery, or restrict which project you're allowed to download imagery for. So here is the contributor site, which has been recently redesigned. It looks beautiful. These are all of my images and videos that I have queued up to submit as a contributor. I'm waiting for that video to come in to be populated, because Adobe Sensei is parsing through the video, each frame of it, and finding what is that content, what are the colors, what are the themes inside of it. So that's going to take a while. Like I said, I'm also a photographer. And over here in Adobe Lightroom, where you see these lovely photos of my San Francisco photo walk that I've uploaded for contribution, I have over on the left-hand side also, in my published services, I have an Adobe Stock integration, right? So I actually recently took a trip to Hawaii, as you can see, right? I've got some lovely photos. Yes, I was hanging loose on the beach there. But this photo right here, I really like this sunset photo, and I want to submit it. But as you can see, I have a San Francisco publish service available, so I'm going to start a new service, right? I'm going to go to my publishing manager, and I'm just going to add Adobe Stock. Look at that integration. I'll call this Hawaii. This is my Hawaii image. Notice part of this integration is also quite instructional, because if you've never been a contributor to Adobe Stock before, it actually walks you through the process very nicely. And so what you're finding is people are contributing to Stock who never even would have considered being a contributor before. Like, I don't think of taking my Hawaii images and trying to make a couple bucks off it until now. So let's see, we'll say save. That is my new publish service, and I'm just going to drag that Hawaii image right into Adobe Stock. I've got a nice publish button, so I can check and make sure that the image suits the spec of Adobe Stock before I actually submit it. But it suits the spec. I'll say publish, and of course I'm going to come back to Safari and do a little refresh here. And as you'll see, after I refresh, not only is where's my video? Let's see, is it in review? Where'd that video go? It should have been in there. Well, here is that sunset image.
Mm-hmm.
So the sunset image, the thing to notice about this, by the way, is that what is the biggest pain for stock contributors is having to keyword all of the images. But notice through the power of Adobe Sensei, that image was auto-tagged not just with the obvious sunset, sun, sea, ocean, and sky, but that has 25 keywords. So as a contributor, not only did that reduce all the time that I have to take individually keywording all of my images, but look at the reach that I will have. Nature, orange, anybody searching on any of these terms is going to have access to my content very quickly. And that's really great. All I have to do is give this a title, which is Hawaii Sunset, and I can go ahead and submit that for approval. Boom, like it's done. I can submit both of those, and now those assets are in review, and I'll get a notification once they're live, and I can start making money. Right? It's really easy.
That's awesome.
And the one last thing, I don't know how I think I'm still good on time.
You good?
So, as I mentioned, I work at Altura, which is a large enterprise. And sometimes I work in the dreaded PowerPoint. And right, as a designer, I must say that. But PowerPoint is probably one of the most ubiquitous tools for business on planet Earth. Everybody uses it. Everybody uses awful, bad clip art that just makes your eyes bleed. Until we, of course, reach the Adobe corporate deck, which is beautiful. So let's say, for example, I've been given a new job. I'm no longer a designer at Altura. I'm now a corporate salesperson at Adobe. I get the deck, and I'm going in to pitch AT&T. And, well, our corporate deck has T-Mobile in there. We might want to walk into the customer with something other than a T-Mobile graphic when we talk about the experience business. So I'm just, no offense to T-Mobile. But over here in PowerPoint, if I want to find something that looks kind of like that, I've got now, brand new, on the Microsoft Office store, I've got this Adobe Stock plugin for PowerPoint. So check this out. Not only does it recognize me as signed in, it sees all of my unused images, it sees the history of what I've previewed in PowerPoint, right? And if I just go back here for a second, I can now search for, what was that? That's like a retail store. And if I find a retail store in here that looks kind of similar, right? There we go. Well, it looks like I've already licensed this one. So did you see that little check mark there? Isn't that great? Like I can see what I've already licensed. And if I'm provisioned in the admin console, I can actually see what the rest of my business is licensed. So I can either take something that we've already paid for, or I know not to use it. That's another huge competitive differentiator that Getty and Shutterstock do not have in their experience. So all I have to do is just grab that. Oops, sorry. Actually, I don't grab it. I grab it like that, add it to PowerPoint, and boom, that image is right there in just a moment. One of the other differentiators that we have, while we're waiting for it, there we go. All right, looks good. And I can, of course, format that with PowerPoint's wonderful formatting tools, like, for example, cropping. Yes, let's see. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with that, but let's say, for example, this presentation is for AT&T, and that's not in the currency or the kind of transaction model that we want. But I happen to have an image that looks the way that we want it to look, and I want to place it there. So over here in the plugin, not only can I search, but I can also do what's called visual search, right? And this is yet another competitive differentiator that we're continuously building and improving with Adobe Sensei, not just to be able to browse for images, right? I've got this nice mobile image on the desktop here, which looks like hand holding a phone. So this is a little bit more generic, right? Like these hands holding phones are a little bit better, right? So I could just put that in, license it right here, or preview it in PowerPoint. But again, it's the power of visual search and what's coming in Adobe Stock for aesthetic search and being able to search in ways that many of the competitors haven't even dreamed of. So
That's fantastic, Jerry.
that's
Awesome.
it. Great job.
So as all of you saw, Jerry touched on the three things that Claude talked about, right? Integration, differentiating based on quality and Adobe technology like Sensei, and being able to get contributions and content from the best designers and videographers on the planet. So having sort of an exclusive collection from the world's best creators. So really phenomenal demo.